Hong Kong is known to be a city with very heavy light pollution. So tonight I'm staying on this trail with my Sony 24mm f1.4 G Master to try and beat Hong Kong's light pollution and to see the stars. Now let's go through the game plan. The number one tip if you're going to do astrophotography is mind-blowingly simple. Search for darker skies. And you can do this by planning your shoot in advance and refer to a light pollution map. In Hong Kong, if you look into the city center, it's really bright. But as you go to the edges, it gradually improves. I usually do my astro vlogs around this Hai Kung area, but today I wanted to explore the western side, Lantau Island. You can also refer to what is called the Bortle scale, and the lower the Bortle number of a location, the better it is in terms of light pollution. And I also use this app called Clear Outside to have a reference of the Bortle scale of my particular location. If you're doing some astrophotography, I highly advise for you to arrive your location earlier in the day so that you can also scout and do some risk assessments, because you need to be aware of any form of cliffs or falls and avoid some accidents, especially in the dark. We want to get home safely after all. And that is why I arrived this location earlier in the day so that I already know the safe place that I'm going to shoot at later tonight. As it turns out, the spots that I scouted in advance, like those floaty things, does not work at all in the dark because it's heavily light polluted. Even here in the reservoir, that depot over there has extreme light pollution, and behind the mountains there's also a glow from the light pollution, I suppose from the airport or the Tongchong town center. Pretty annoying, to be honest, but I still have a backup plan, so let's check it out. Long road ahead. Well, I kept low expectations, but I will soon realize that this backup plan will turn out to be quite the adventure. Over 7 kilometers away. Beating light pollution in Hong Kong is possible, but I didn't say it was easy. Go to the middle of nowhere, stay there all night. This is tough. But it will all be worth it and turn out to be a rewarding night under some stars. Super dark. According to Clear Outside, I am now currently in a Class 4 Bortle scale night sky. Seldom see a Class 4 here in Hong Kong. And I thought that this would be a good spot to talk about the next tip for shooting astrophotography. And that is going to be the direction that you are pointing your camera. While it is great to find places with a dark sky, if you're pointing your camera towards areas that are light polluted, then that will significantly degrade the quality of the night sky that you're going to have. For example, if I shoot towards the scene behind me, it's just going to be the open sea, and only the lights from the boats and the markers will be visible. But if I shoot towards the opposite direction where Lantau Peak is going to be, there's significant light pollution coming from the correctional facility and the surrounding town. But I think it's still a decent composition with the coast and Lantau Peak in the background and some parts of the night sky, so I'm still going to take it anyway. Whenever I do my astro vlogs or astrophotography in general, most of the time I shoot for the Milky Way core. And this is quite expected. I mean, the Milky Way core is probably the most photographed subject in the night sky. But today I wanted to emphasize the point that the night sky is more than just the Milky Way core. Especially this time of the year, the galactic center isn't already visible in the night sky because it sets below the horizon at nighttime. So do try to consider other subjects in the night sky as well. For example, there are other pretty constellations, like I see Orion up above there. And also I've taken photos of Pleiades before, which I can make a joke that I had a date with the Seven Sisters all night long. This is the point where the trail started getting interesting in the dark. I didn't expect that I'll pass through some big trees in a walkway. Pretty spooky, to be honest. Although somehow I just kept on going despite having thoughts that this was straight out of a horror movie. But then I decided to look up into the night sky. So I found this small river while walking into this eerie woods. And as I looked up into the sky, so many stars, oh my god. So even though there's not a lot of constellations that I recognize, I had to come down and then take a photo. Simple composition. I see some reflections of the stars on the river and then some of the surrounding trees in the background and some part of the sky. 24mm isn't super wide. I wish it was a bit wider, but yeah, it's really nice. At this point, I've been hiking for a few hours, and even though I was already quite tired, there was just no turning back anymore as the stars pop brighter and brighter. I think I'm already at a good part of this coast and shoot, so here are some quick shooting tips for astrophotography. So first, you need to set yourself to manual focus. So this 24mm f1.4 G Master of Sony already has an autofocus manual focus toggle switch, and I just toggle it to manual focus. And then you just look for a bright star within the night sky and then adjust your focus ring until it is going to be at its smallest point, and that will make your stars already in focus. As you can imagine, it's going to be quite difficult to compose in pitch black darkness because you really can't see anything with your naked eye. So what I tend to do is I bump up my ISO to the highest level and then set the shutter speed to around 1 second and the widest aperture, and then take a test shot. This way I don't need to wait for the full long exposure like 10 to 20 seconds before realizing that I messed up the composition and adjust from there. So I think it's just a really faster way to have a pre-visual first before you actually adjust your exposure to the right settings. For these photos, I stitched together 5 frames to capture a vertical panorama because 24mm wasn't wide enough to show the vastness of that night sky. Not the cleanest foreground, to be honest, because of the poking branches, but I was really limited in space. I did like though how it captures that I was already nearing the edge of Hong Kong. So would you look at that, I ended up in some beach that I didn't even know existed. I don't think it's on the map, at least from my GPS here. And wow, just open skies from here on out. So I think I'm going to spend the time here shooting, and I can see there are a couple of rock foregrounds over there, but to be honest, not a lot of compositions because it's just the beach pointing towards the sea, but it's pretty calm. So technically I could have proceeded further to the trail, and there's supposed to be further checkpoints like a fort and lighthouse that would be interesting to show. But I figured it would take a longer time to hike further and I wouldn't be able to maximize shooting. I decided to just settle and take my win at this hidden gem. So while I just lie down here and mesmerize at the sky, another shooting tip that I have is that I tend to overexpose my photos, usually around +1 in the EV meter, so I'm sort of like exposing to the right. And this just allows me to obtain a lot more light information without clipping my highlights and whites. And then in post-processing, I just lower the exposure and still able to retain all that light information for the details for me to work with. Just a note that when you do this, make sure to shoot in RAW. Over on this side of the beach, I do like the curves of the mountains in the background. Just too bad that I think the stars are a bit dim over there. Maybe there's some light pollution on that side, or maybe there's just not a lot of constellations in this part. I'm not really too sure, to be honest. But yeah, well, I think it's still a shot worth taking, I guess. This Sony 24 f1.4 G Master just really a beast of a lens for Astro. It just collects so much light. And if you want to know more about how you can maximize the potential of your ultra-wide-angle lens like this Sony 24mm, why don't you click on this video. See you there. Thanks for watching.